Greetings, great things. It is Q Talks once again, and we are back with another episode of Black Swan Theory podcast. Today's topic is why depth feels lonely. So, I have some notes as always on my phone. If you see me referring down or with my phone, that is what I'm referring to. But essentially, I just wanted to discuss why and how depths can feel lonely in the world when everything around you feels surface level. So, this is something that you start to see or feel happening when you notice that you are craving deeper connections, you're feeling disconnected in surface level interactions. And even though you may be around or with people, you still feel alone, right? And you have this sense of loneliness. It can look like small talk being draining, struggling to relate in shallow environments, and feeling like you have to shrink to fit in. At this point, you are wanting real connection. You're no longer feeling satisfied with constant interaction and stimulation because it gets to that point when you realize that less is more. You start to adopt a sort of mentality or attitude of less is more when it comes to your interactions, your conversations. You don't have the time to entertain things that don't necessarily not just benefit you, but are beneficial as a whole on a mutual level. So this happens because some of us, those of us that are rare individuals, black swans, black sheep of the world, we think and we feel deeply, right? And not everybody operates on that level. So the analogy that I love to use, or the analogy that the way I kind of imagine it in my head is when you hear or you think about somebody that can dive, right? So people that dive have different lung capacities. There may be a diver that has the ability to dive to very deep depths, right? The deepest depths. And then there are other divers who can only go about halfway that level, um, that far down. So when you see it in that way and you apply it to your mind, your emotions, your spirit, then you start to understand that for some people, there's only so far they can go, right? It's like that saying or that quote that people meet you where they're at, or they respond to you from where they are at. When you are very deep, when you are a deep diver, right, it reduces the number of people that you can truly align with or relate to. The deeper that you are, the fewer spaces feel like home, the fewer interactions feel, you know, reciprocal. When it comes to my own relate relation to this, I have many times felt alone despite being in a room full of people and found myself craving connection, wanting to connect with others, right? Wanting to form connections, but also not wanting to force this, especially out of knowing that there's a chance that what it is that I'm seeking, I may not find or it may not be reciprocated. Not because that isn't possible, but just because, again, there are different levels to life, right? And not everybody has the ability to perceive even some of the levels, let alone achieve them or, play at those levels. And I'm not saying levels as a positive or a negative thing. It just is what it is. If you know, you know. So once you start to realize that And like for me, I started to realize, okay, I don't fit everywhere, right? There's not a lot of spaces and environments that I can find myself in for very long or tolerating for very long. And that's simply because of, again, just sometimes it's not about the people around you. It's not even about what's happening around you. It's actually about you and what's going on inside of you, right? Where you're at and how much then in turn where you find yourself can accept that, can embody that. You can embody yourself when you are in these environments fully. Can you or can you not? These are the questions that we ask ourselves and the things that come up that cause you to have to sometimes choose to not go to these places, right? To not interact with certain people. Just remember that you're not too deep. You're just in spaces that don't meet you fully. So when you stop, so as I was saying, you aren't too deep, right? You're just in places that don't meet you, that aren't able to meet you. And that's okay. That's not your fault. That's not anybody's fault. That's not their fault. That just is what it is. And the more you're able to accept this, right, the more you're able to ascend this. Because something that I myself, again, had to come to terms with in this process, right, and in this being somebody that's rare, being somebody that's unique and different, there's one side where you choose to look at it and you choose to dwell on the difference between you and others, on why you are the way you are, and all of these endless questions, right? And then you have to choose, or you have to, sorry, that's my laptop. You have to choose, or you have to cross over to the side where you now accept it and you accept things for what they are. Because we sometimes get confused in, and I am talking to myself here, in thinking that analyzing things, thinking that being aware of things, right? Contemplating things, reflecting on things is the same as truly being aware, truly overcoming, accepting, embodying, transcending things and situations. It's not the same. When you are stuck on the why, you're not able to operate and truly accept and utilize the how. Okay? There's a why am I like this? And there's a okay, how? Like what happens now? Because once you accept things for what they are, then they are what they are. You can't keep thinking about it, you can't keep dwelling on it. And that's a big lesson I think to take away on this subject and topic as well, because it's hard, it's not easy, but like I said, you can't stay dwelling in that place of isolation and wandering. The biggest thing, the biggest takeaway that I want you to take away from this message, aside from what I just said, is the fact that you should stop shrinking to feel included, okay? Like the analogy that I gave earlier, not everybody can dive so deep. Your people do exist in this world, they're just not everywhere. When you're a certain kind of thinker, you're a certain kind of doer, you're a certain kind of believer, and you see life, or you have the perspective of this world, you hold it differently than others do. You dare to hold it differently than others do. Back to that example that I gave, some people do not have the breath to meet you there. BREADTH, breath. Because when it comes to the breath analogy, like I said, those people that have dived only so deep under the surface of life, into the sea, into the depths, right? They cannot relate to what it is that you have seen at the further depths that you have dived to, how you found that experience to be. You can talk to them about that, and you can talk to them about their experience because you have dived on all those levels. But once you go beyond the point that they have been able to reach, that's where things start to get interesting. But that isn't your issue, right? That just is what it is. Those people, you have to know, like I said, how far you can take it, how much you can discuss. And when things have to be, that was my speaker, and when things have to be left for what they are, and where these deeper conversations can be held with others who have dived to the same type of level. Now, that doesn't mean that when you are around certain people that you should hide your depth, but I truly am a believer that it is your choice always in how much you reveal. Remember that depth itself is not a flaw, it is a filter. Okay? And the final takeaway from this message for all my beautiful black swans is that if you feel lonely because you crave depth, it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. It simply means you are not meant for surface level spaces. And it is for you to do with that information what you will. It does not mean that you cannot go into these spaces. It simply means do not seek your meaning and all of your understanding of yourself from these spaces because you already know you're a deep diver, okay? Not everybody there has gone to the levels and the depths that you have, and that's okay. I always want you guys to operate in your strength and your autonomy and to not feel lonely. This is why I make these videos. This is why I have chosen to do what I do, because it shows you that it's up to you what you make of what is inside of you, especially when you know that there are layers and levels to that to be explored, to be shared. If that is something that you want to experience, it is your choice to take yourself to and around these places. That's why I encourage you guys to talk to me, because I'm not here simply to talk to you. I'm also here to listen and to understand, because I want to meet others that are on the same depths, on the same levels. So, to say all of that, thank you as always for listening, and I can't wait to hear your comments and to see you in the next video. Bye bye.